White women were active participants in the slave economy, owning and trading slaves, with about 40% of slave owners being white women. And the more slaves they owned, the more power they held. White women in the South gained material benefits and privileges from the racial hierarchy, and many sought freedom and power through the exploitation of black male slaves. White women, including Martha Washington, were active participants in the slave trade, owning and seeking to maintain legal ownership of black slaves, as revealed through interviews with black people conducted by historian Jones Rogers. White girls were taught from a young age to become slave owners, and were trained to uphold and sustain power over their black servants. White women in the antebellum South actively possessed and claimed ownership of black servants, as shown in the example of a 3-year-old demanding her father to cut the ears of a black servant and get her a new maid. White women in the 19th century had legal and financial influence, including control over property and the ability to establish separate marital estates, and were present in slave markets during the peak of slavery. White women in the US bought and sold black servants, forced them to have sex and serve as wet nurses, contributing to nearly half of all African slaves in the Americas by 1860. White women post-Civil War resisted abolition, sought control over freed black people, and undermined progress for black communities through apprenticeship, black codes, and involuntary servitude. White women and men in Georgia perpetuated violence and exploitation against black individuals, leading to the establishment of the KK as a socially accepted platform for violence. White women in the extremist group had a symbolic role in shielding themselves from black men who were seen as sexually aggressive threats while also supporting and serving men. The women's KKK, known as the Duke KKK, was a separate group for white Protestant women that had a structured system similar to the Roman Catholic hierarchy and had branches in multiple states. White women in the KKK were powerful and influential, using their social standing to manipulate and spread their agendas, often targeting and destroying the reputations of political candidates and others they deemed unworthy. Catholic school teachers supported the Klan and integrated its beliefs into everyday American life. White women in America were actively involved in the slave trade and benefited from it, despite being perceived as innocent and pure. And their involvement in the system contributed to the oppression and brutality of black people.